Hey, how's it going, everybody? Uh, Coming to you guys live. Figured it'd be a little bit easier doing it this way. Just some of the logistics of YouTube. When I do a longer video, it takes a while for it to upload. So, figured just come to you guys this way. Be a little bit easier. Um, quite honestly, not gonna lie, very, very, nervous. Um, really just because it's just not something I've talked about a lot. What you guys are going to see though is I have turned off the chat function on this live. Not going to be able to send any messages if you guys want to. Most of these people, I mean, almost you guys can message me through here. Or you can post comments on this after the fact. I'll try to get back to you guys. But so today, today's show. Not really a show. It's really just we'll call it a therapy session more than anything. This is kind of a therapy session for me. I think it's a matter of time. Just kind of talk about it. There's just so many people that are involved in my life that know about everything, and there's people that are out there, and there's nasty people, there's horrible people out there, but there's people that want to be involved in my life, and um, it's a weird ordeal, but um, so so today is an anniversary of sorts. Not really of sorts. It is an anniversary. Today marks 5 years that I've been home. For 4 years prior to that, I took up residency with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Yeah, I spent 4 years in prison, in custody of the state of Texas. And I'm going to try to unpackage a lot of this stuff. It's a lot. It's old. It goes back a while. But I'm going to do my best to take my responsibility where I can and where I should. I'm going to do my best to be sensitive to people around me that are still involved in my life, and do my best just not to. This isn't anybody else's story. This is mine. I take ownership of what I've done, but I will certainly tell what I did not do. And so first and foremost, I'm going to say that what I went for was a charge of criminal mischief. Criminal mischief is a very broad term, but it's nothing. It's a nonviolent. It's nothing. No, I did not go for anything violent whatsoever. It was not. There was no assault involved. There was no robbery involved. Nothing like that. It boils down to me being an asshole. Boils down to me being just a real asshole. A lot of people in my life have known me for a long, long time. I think everybody knows that overall, generally, what you guys see now is generally who I am as a person. You guys see a lot of that. Yeah, I can be a smart ass. Yes, I can say things, but generally overall, I think everybody in my life knows me as a good person. But when I was younger, I was extremely arrogant. And really, I think beyond that, I was just inconsiderate, and I didn't think about other people. And I really didn't think about anything else. I really didn't think about the ramifications of things. And so what I'm going to try to do is like I said, I'm going to try to unpackage this as best as possible for you guys and tell everybody kind of how things went down. I may not be able to get through everything today. I may have to go and do, explain more. I don't know how far I'll get, but I'm definitely I'm not gonna sit on here for 4 hours, do all this. It's 3 o'clock now, 3:04 now. I may go through an hour or so, see how far I get. But so anyway, um, I'm gonna back up. This is gonna go back. This is gonna go back some time. So just kind of bear with me because I do, like I've always said, I do believe that the details are important. I do believe it's important to talk about a lot of the different things because they have context. It's not nothing is simple black and white. It's not just a yes or no answer to anything. There is context, and I mean, we're humans. We have emotion, and we have reaction and different mindsets and things like that. So we certainly have context. That no human is just, hey, you're this or that. There's, I guess, grades and levels and variations. So what I'll back up to is my about 2009. 2009, I was married to a woman. We met in 2006. We ended up having a daughter together in 2008. We lived together as husband and wife. We actually, what we did was we ended up getting legally married, I believe, in 2009 after our daughter was born. And we just went to the courthouse and basically backdated our marriage, just so that way, when our daughter, as she grew up, she would believe that her parents had been married prior to her being born. So we tried doing that. And things got tough. There was things going on the business side. There was things going on the personal side. Things got really hard in the business. I was fighting a lot with my family. A lot of it was my doing. I was being very difficult and fighting quite a bit. But it was hard. So when I talk, there was just difficulty in the company, and so it was causing hardship at home, and we were fighting quite a bit, and there was a lot of fighting. So I think it was sometime in 2010. I think it was October 2010. I had come home and I'd actually purchased brand new iPhones for the both of us. That upset her. We got into a fight, but that night it was a UFC fight at a bar up in, it was a big old place up in Conroe. So we all went up there and hung out with a bunch of friends. And on the way home, she was extremely drunk, and I was sober, and we got into a big fight. We got into a huge fight because I had just purchased these iPhones, which was just a ludicrous argument to get into. So we ended up getting into a massive fight. I went inside. Like I said, I was sober. She was drunk. We went inside the house, and it continued. I'm sitting at my desk, sort of like this. I had a big bookshelf behind me. She picks up a candle off my desk, and she throws it at me from about 4 feet away. And I dodge it, miss, and she starts hitting me, things like that. And I end up calling the police. So the police arrive. She's belligerent. She's inside screaming and yelling at the cops, wanting them to arrest me. And of course, they're not looking to arrest me. I'm sober. So I'm standing out on the front porch and just having a conversation with, I'm literally talking, I believe, to the deputies, or not even the deputies, just the cops that are there, and having a conversation. I think we're talking about football. And all of a sudden you hear a big commotion inside, and I just hear the sheriff, or not the sheriff, sorry, the police officer, the sergeant. He just says, "Fuck this. They're both going to jail." I'm like, what the hell? What's going on? Well, apparently what occurred is that he was trying to calm her down, and he sat on the arm of the couch, and she flipped out on him and screamed and yelled, told him to get the fuck off off her couch, blah, blah, and all this other stuff. So he had enough. So they handcuff us both. They take me, they take her, and they take us to county jail. We go in front of the judge the next morning. I find out that a little backstory on that. I just, I went, like I said, I was sober. I did nothing wrong. So they just took me For me, I got everything was dropped. I went in front of the judge the next morning. 100% of mine was dropped. No questions asked. Hey, he literally looked at me, says, "Hey, you're part one of this Husk fiasco. You can go. You're free to go." Um, Her, on the other hand, because I just went, I just walked to the cop car. I wasn't going to, make a big, luckily the kids weren't there. Nobody else was there. But she apparently fought. She ends up, as they're dragging her out of the house, she kicks the cop car and tries to run. They end up pepper spraying her, hog tying her, and putting her in the back of the cop car. When they get her to the county jail, they end up dunking her. They end up putting her head underwater, and well, not like holding her like torture, but that's what they have to do to clean her off, because they can't put her inside the holding cells while she's covered in pepper spray and all that stuff, because it'll make everybody else. So they just literally had to douse her. I always imagine like the scene from Tommy Boy when he's covered in mud and shit, and he's getting sprayed with water. I'm a maniac. Anyway, so she goes in front of the judge the next morning, and the judge says, "Oh, you're part number 2." And of course, she's up there, hair's all fucked up, and it's all disheveled, makeup's all run down her face and everything. And the judge just looks at her and says, "So you're part number 2?" And Yes, Your Honor. Well, he says, "Well, you're not getting off so easy." So she ends up getting charged with like assault on a police officer and like evading arrest or something like that. Maybe like drunk and disorderly. It's like 2 or 3 charges. So anyway, I'm free and clear. She's got these charges against her now, and that's kind of the start of a downfall, where now she's got all these. She's now like, we have a kid, and there was this problem, and now she's got charges against her, and she gets like probation or something like that. She has to pay, it's me. She didn't have a fucking job. So I end up paying, her fees and fines and things like that. And, I don't know if I don't remember if she has to do community service, but anyway, that's the start of this. Over the next year, like I said, I think that was October 2010. Over the next several months, the cops would be called back to my house by me, I think 3 more times. And each time she was drunk, and they would make, I think 2 times they made her leave. One time, I just didn't want to be there. I think I just left. But it was just, it was obviously it was escalating. So, I will admit that I guess in one fight, this will make a point. In one fight, again, it's my house. I own the house. But we got into a fight, and I kicked my door in my master bedroom. I kicked the door, and I broke the hinge, broke the frame. And it was another, just another stupid fight. So, sometime in March, I think it was March 2011. So I guess back up, I found out she was cheating on me. I guess what was a cause of the escalation of the fight and the argument over that, she was obviously dealing with issues. I found in her car a bag of wet, like, panties that she had stuffed in the back seat. It was an expedition that I had bought for her. And I didn't make a big scene out of it. I didn't, but again, it'll make sense. A lot of this will make sense. So we got into a fight one night, and I'd seen her phone, and on her phone, she had sent half naked pictures to a guy. She'd been texting them to him. And of course that, was insane to me. But what made it worse is that she was doing it from our kid's bathroom. She would literally sneak out of bed at night, and she would go into the upstairs bathroom in the kid's bathroom, and she would take pictures of herself and send them to this guy. And, and so we were going through all this other nonsense, and a couple, of course, I find out a lot of stuff. Apparently, a lot of people knew a lot of things afterwards, and they finally tell me about stuff after the fact. They don't tell me about it when it's occurring. Apparently, at some point in, I think, January, February of 2011, she took our children, our child together, my stepson and my son. They were a year apart. She took all three of these kids to a birthday party at a lady's house that I introduced her to as a friend. This lady was an insurance adjuster. She worked for an insurance company, and I'd become friends with her, and so I introduced my wife at the time to her. So they became friends. She takes the kids over to this birthday party for this other lady's kids, and come to find out, she left all three of the children there, drove to a bar, picked up this guy that she'd been seeing, brings him back to the house, and apparently sleeps with him, has sex with him in the room of this other lady's house with our three children in the room. So pretty shitty. She ended up taking this guy home the next morning with the three kids in the car. She took him back to the bar so he could get in his car. So obviously there's a lot. Obviously, like I said, I found out a whole bunch after the fact. And I knew about certain things. So fast forward, I think, to March. It was like March of 2011. I got called on I think it was a Saturday or Sunday. I got asked to go to a house. Very wealthy, prominent individual. I mean, I could literally say his name, and every single person on here would know exactly who he is. A very prominent individual in the Houston area, very prominent business owner. There's literally not a single person who would watch this and not know who this person is. So I won't say his name. But I was called to his house because he had a water leak in his garage. Water was coming through the ceiling, and sheetrock was falling down on a brand new Range Rover. So, so I go there, and this is on a Sunday, and I come back, and on my way back, I go by McDonald's to pick up the kids' food, and I walk in the house, put the kids' food down on the table. They all sit down to eat, and I pick up the MacBook. We'd been sharing it. I had a MacBook that I used for work, and MacBook Pro, and she ended up using it. Unfortunately, she had her email up, and on this email, she had pictures of her and the guy going back and forth. They'd been messaging all day long, even though we'd been trying to reconcile, and she told me that they'd stopped. Of course, like I said, this is 11, 12 years ago, a lot younger, a lot more stupid, and very hot-headed. So at this point, I'd kept myself completely in the clear, kind of confined everything, but here I kind of lost it. And so even with the kids in the house, I confronted her, and we started fighting. At some point, I've never touched her, never one time had I ever touched her. One point, I'm holding our daughter in my arm, my left arm, and she picks up like an 18-inch long giraffe off of our dresser, and she threatens to hit me with it. And I have, like I said, I have our daughter, and I'm holding her in my left arm. Well, she goes and swings this giraffe at me, and I put my arm up kind of like this, and she hits me here. And the giraffe shatters, goes everywhere. Luckily, it didn't hurt, or, hit our daughter. Tell you what, she hit me so hard with it that within a day, I mean, I was even covered with this tattoo at that time, but within a day, my arm was black from the bruising. It's how hard she hit me with it. So, I mean, so obviously it was red. So I call the police. Police arrive. She tells the police I never touched her. acknowledges to the police I never touched her. I tell them what happened. Here's what's going on. She acknowledges she hit me with the giraffe, but the police saw that I had kicked the door, and this was a month, 2 months prior. I had actually fixed it at this point, but they saw a crack at one point in the door jamb, and they believed that they needed to just remove me because the state of Texas, there was kids in the house. And so as far as they were concerned, she's more valuable to the kids, even though she was the one that was violent with me, even though that she's the one that hit me and acknowledged and admitted she hit me, because I kicked open this door in my own house at, like 6 weeks earlier. They ended up taking me to jail. So I ended up getting charged with a misdemeanor, and it got dropped. But I immediately filed for divorce. But she files a protective order against me. And the judge grants a protective order that day or the next day, saying I can't go to my own house. Now, again, I own the house. It's my house. She doesn't work. It's my house in my name. Everything's in my name. But it's Texas. It's, common property state. So, but I was told I couldn't go to my house. That day, well, not even that day, within about an hour of me being taken away, she moves her boyfriend into my house. The guy she'd been seeing, the guy she'd been cheating on me with, she moves him into the house. Moves him in. Actually, I mean, and I ended up having I saw some text messages at some point where, like, he even changed the locks on the front of the house. So this protective order lasted it was supposed to last for 60 days. I'll be honest, I lasted like 3 weeks. I was fed up. I was having to live at my parents' house, which sucks. I own my own stuff, own my own vehicles, own my own house. And here's where I'll kind of go off script, is not even script, is just to tell you guys, I was an arrogant person. It was driving me insane, because throughout this period of time, I was learning who this individual was. And man, I'll just tell you, like, I looked at the guy and as less than me. I won't even go into the details of his job. But I thought, because of what he did for a living and some other things, that, like, how the fuck could you cheat on me with this guy? Again, I equated the value of me as an individual to the things I owned, and like, it just destroyed me. Like, emotionally, it just fucking destroyed me. It made me feel like I was nothing. All these things I provided. I mean, like I said, I think at the time she was 21, 22 years old, didn't work, drove a $60,000 vehicle, lived in a, $500,000 home on the lake. And, with property and, anyway, a lot of stuff. So anyway, I was an ass, and I thought, because I had all these things, that I immediately had value to somebody. And, obviously that's just stupid. So anyway, I lost it. I was barely able to see my children. I'm going to try. There's a whole lot. And again, I have a photographic memory. So I can tell you the situation of everything and everybody did in every scenario. But like I said, I'm going to try to be gentle and try not to drag other people into it. It's not necessary. But there was a lot of people that were out there trying to capitalize on this, and it sucked. It made my life hard. And so it was really difficult for me to see my children. At that point, I spent 2 nights in jail. So it was really hard, and God bless my parents, because, like I said, there was difficulty at the company, and my parents and I got into a big old fight, and I'd split off, and started my own business and I was doing my own thing. And it was literally the same exact business my parents are in the business I do today. But because I left, it inevitably took a lot of business from them. And so we were there was conflict, there was fighting, and it sucked. But my parents were always there for me. Of course, they let me live at their house, and um, you know, they helped out tremendously. So, but I was young, and I didn't want to listen to anybody, and I was being stupid, and I was just being an asshole the entire time. Um, and again, I was, narcissistic and emotionally damaged. And I was just fucked up. I just fucked up. So, um, I'd had enough. Like I said, I was 28, 29 years old at the time, something like that. Like I said, I valued a lot of things differently. Like I said, I'm, paying $1,400 a month for my truck. I'm paying $800 a month for her truck. I'm paying for, $2,000 a month on our house, and she gets $500 a week and, an allowance basically and stuff like that. So it's like I just looked at money and said, "Hey, this is what matters, and this is what makes me valuable to somebody else." And again, it disconnected me from reality. Um, and so I'm not going to ever take responsibility for her cheating and doing the things that she did, but I will certainly take responsibility for my own actions. And I can't say I was always perfect. I know that we fought, and but I don't know. I mean, I always took care of her, so I don't know. So anyway, um, about 3 weeks in, I got fed up, and I mean, I wasn't eating, I wasn't sleeping. I'd gone to the doctor to get a prescription for basically some um, God, like a Prozac, Lexapro. They gave me Lexapro, and of course that made it worse because it turned me like into a zombie. I had no energy. I was lethargic. I could barely eat. Like I was barely eating like 6 inch a 6 inch sub in an entire day. It's just I was down. I'd lost like probably like in like 3 week period. I probably lost just from we'll call it depression. Uh, I'd lost like 30 pounds. I was probably down to about 150 pounds um, at the time, somewhere between 145 and 150 pounds. And so it was bad. So anyway, I just wasn't thinking clearly. And again, just, all the other nonsense. So basically I got in my head that she shouldn't be living in my house anymore. I got into my head that she doesn't need to be there. And what I did was I went to the house, and with nobody there, nobody was home, nobody was there. I created an electrical short in on the on in the garage. It's a detached garage, breezeway into the house, and I created an electrical short. Um, no, no, I know what people are going to think. No, the house did not burn down. The garage did not burn down. Nothing like that. I created an electrical short, and I damaged the electrical wiring in the house. That was it. It made it to where the house wasn't livable. So fast forward, she files an insurance claim. I didn't file an insurance claim. She filed an insurance claim. And what ended up happening is because I own the house, um, I had to be involved, but I wasn't involved. Like I had to be involved with the insurance claim, but I wasn't involved. So with all that, long story short, was that the insurance company paid an amount, and they only put her name on it. They put her name on it, the mortgage company's name, and that was it on this check. And again, I'm trying not to go down rabbit holes and little things that really don't matter. But what ended up happening was she forged the mortgage company's signature on the check. It was for a substantial amount of money because what happened was the electrical wiring got smoky and it got smoke inside the house. Again, nobody was home. Nobody was home. Nobody was home. Nobody was home. Nobody was there. So, but she ended up forging the mortgage company's signature on the check and she deposited it into her bank account. And she waited for it to clear. Well, when it cleared, she went and withdrew all the money, took all the money out. And within 6 weeks, she had spent all this money. It was a substantial amount of money. It was six figures. So she spent all the money buying things, for people, just being stupid. Um, she'd actually moved on to another guy at this point. She wasn't even with that guy. She moved on to another guy, and that poor individual, he didn't know about anything. He just thought he'd met a wealthy girl who was living in the woodlands at this point, and he knew nothing about what was going on, and so he kind of got caught up in some of this stuff. But luckily, not legally. He just got caught in the drama, and when they finally realized that she forged the signature on the check, the mortgage company got pissed off, and they got pissed off because it's supposed to go to them because the house is supposed to get fixed. Well, she took the money, spent the money, didn't fix the house. I'm stuck. I've got the house. Hey, it's fine. I would have fixed it, but now they're pissed off. Now they're upset. I'm sorry. I got to turn this. I'm going to turn something off here. Now they're pissed off. The mortgage company's pissed off because that's how insurance claims are supposed to go. Well, they went back to the insurance company who they're like, hey, like, what the fuck? And of course that pissed that pissed off the mortgage company. And so the mortgage company went back to the insurance company, and the insurance company was like, well, fuck, it's there's not much that they could do to her because her name was legally on it. But Wells Fargo was very clear that wasn't their signature, that wasn't their stamp. And so because I own the house, the insurance company figured, well, we can put pressure on him. So of course the mortgage company starts coming to me. Like I said, I actually have all the documents. I have copies of, they tried seizing money out of her bank account. The bank did all this other stuff. They tried all that, but there wasn't a lot that could be done. So they started coming after me because my name was on the house. The insurance policy was in my name, all this other stuff. And that was the crazy part. They wrote a check to her and put her name on it. Her name wasn't even on the insurance policy. But I guess because the state of Texas and being a common law state, they put her name on it automatically, or gave her the ability to have her name put on it. So mortgage company starts raising hell, and they're pissed off, and they start putting pressure on the county, on the district attorney. And so now the district attorney starts kind of pressuring me. They start coming after me. And it's my house. In theory, I own this house I'm in right now. If I wanted to, right here, right now, I could rip out all the sheetrock in this house. I could go cut all the studs in the house, and I could knock the house down. It's my house. I could come in and I could rip out all the electrical wiring in my house. That's not the right thing to do, and that's not something I will ever do. But at that period of time, I wasn't thinking straight. My mind was fucked up, and I was just not in a good place. So I thought causing damage to the electrical panel would be the result. And what it resulted in is me getting into a big protracted fight with the county, wanting to facilitate the wants and desires of the insurance company. And they pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. And, I spent a god awful amount of money. They ended up trying to come after me and charging me with stuff. And oh my God, I ended up, they would literally, I would literally be charged with a crime, and and they'd arrest me, and then the next day would drop it. And I'm talking about fabricated nonsense stuff. Of course, the whole time I'm dealing with a divorce, and I had custody of my daughter. Um, she's just my daughter's mother's not a very good person. She's just not a good person. There's a lot to the story with her that eventually maybe I'll go into. Needless to say that she's probably on her way to prison right now. She's facing some charges where she's on her way to prison. She's just a bad person. Finally, it's caught up to her after, you know, about 20 years of really just skating by on everything. So, um, so was going through all this nonsense, and I was just tired, and I was just trying to live my life, and I'm trying to get on with things, and I'm trying to work, and I'm just trying to get back to normal. And I ended up going through all this stuff. I ended up agreeing to a term of probation. I was given deferred probation. Um, and apparently that wasn't good enough for some people. So I was given probation. I had to do community service, pay restitution, all this other stuff. And like I said, apparently that just wasn't good for certain people. And as you guys know, I've never done drugs of any kind. So I have no drug and alcohol history. I don't drink. So showing up, I never had a problem reporting. I'd always report. It was never an issue. And but every time I would go, my probation officer would talk to me about, she's getting these phone calls, and she's getting these phone calls from multiple people wanting money from me. She had a file. When it was all said and done, she had a file probably about 2 to 3 inches thick of just calls, never saying I'd done anything wrong, never said I didn't. It was like these people were trying to treat my probation officer as if she was a therapy, a therapist for him. And after about, I guess, 10 months of, no, about 8 months of being on probation, um, my probation officer she was just fed up with me and got tired of a lot of stuff. She was tired of dealing nothing from me because I'd never failed to report. I never failed a UA, never not paid my fees, all that stuff, everything I was supposed to do. She just got tired of dealing with the situation. So she went back to the same judge. And again, a lot going on with that judge. There's information there. I will say that the judge I was dealing with, he's since been removed from the bench. He can no longer be a judge. I'm not sure if he's legally allowed to practice law in the state anymore, but a couple different things. He was under an investigation at the time for issuing excessive sentences, as well as, I believe, I'm not 100% certain, but I believe also for illegally accessing the jury database to elicit campaign contributions. So he no longer can be a judge. The guy that was fucking with me is, he can't be a judge anymore. Again, backstory. I actually came across him one day in a mall about 10 years ago, and he didn't even recognize me, but I could see why he was such a miserable person. I won't go into detail on that right now, but anyway, again, I had custody of my daughter and of our daughter at the time. She was living with me, and that wasn't going to do very well for her in a divorce. So again, started fabricating all this stuff and going back and forth, and it was a bunch of nonsense. So the DA, was just pushing and being, it was a bunch of craziness. Like I said, I was home and free and clear and just doing my own thing. And anyway, I end up with, after about 8 months, my probation officer asked me to go into court and see the judge. Said it was just like a regular check-in kind of thing. I mean, as a term of my probation, they can tell me to go to court all the time. I mean, if I'm doing nothing wrong, I'm not worried about it. I knew I was doing nothing wrong. Um, well, apparently, the judge had been briefed on a lot of this stuff, and he was just fed up with a lot of it too. So he says, you are going to do 30 days in county jail as a term of your probation. Come on time, but an aggregate total of 6 months, and not prison, county jail. He says, but you're going to go to jail. You're going to go to county jail for 30 days. I'm like, what the hell? Like, what did I do? While I was there, while I was in county jail doing this 30-day stint, about a week and a half in, the judge files what's called an adjudication. And that is to have my probation revoked completely. Again, I was given deferred probation. So at the end of my probation period, it would be gone, swiped away. That, like I said, I guess wasn't good enough for him. And he was filing to have it adjudicated, which is meaning that when I agreed to the term of probation, I pled no contest, and I wasn't found guilty, wasn't found innocent, pled no contest. So that's the way it is. So anyway, long story short, judge sentences me to 30 days and goes on vacation, and with the expectation that I won't be able to get home. Issues me the single largest bond I'd ever heard of, for somebody who was issued me a $250,000 bond. I mean, I was already on probation, I had a house. I wasn't, I had family. It's not like I'm not a flight risk or anything like that. But he issues me a $250,000 bond. And with the expectation I won't get out. And ended up paying it and coming home. And that pissed him off. So fast forward, again, there's 60 days now pass, and I have to go back in there. And as soon as I walk in the courtroom, it's just a regular check-in. As soon as I walk in the courtroom, judge looks right at me and he says, "Bailiff, take Mr. Husk into custody. I'm revoking his probation, and his sentencing will be on." It was like 2 days from then. So what? Like, what the fuck? Like, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. I'm literally doing every fucking thing I'm supposed to be doing. No, I mean, nothing. Come to find out, ex-wife, we're finally divorced at this point. She ends up moving into an apartment complex that's right around the corner from my house, with the intention of trying to, I guess, like entrap me, if you will. I found out some of this information later from some of the people that were around her at the time, that there was a Walmart down the street, and she would wait to watch to see if my car would come out of the neighborhood, or my truck would come out of the neighborhood. And if I was going to go to a store, restaurant, or whatever, she would follow me there. And apparently she tried this at Walmart one time, where I was going into Walmart to get something, and her intention was to go inside to the Walmart, like somehow interact with me and then try to call the police. Of course, nothing like that happened, but she'd made some allegations. Of course, police were never there, but it was just like a lot of these phone calls, and the judge was like, "I'm fucking done with this guy." And I wasn't making it any easier, because I was, I wasn't extremely respectful. And basically, the last time he took me into custody, I told him to go fuck himself. That's not usually very good. Especially when he just said that he's going to be sentencing me for revocation of my probation, in a couple weeks. So that pissed him off. And like I said, I mean, I wasn't being a very nice person. I was just fed up and I was stressed and no excuses. I put myself there. So fast forward, he ends up sentencing me to um, 10 years. 10 years in the custody of Texas Department of Criminal Justice. And it was horrible. It was horrible at the time. You know, I'd restarted my life. I'd um, start a relationship. Was at the point, well, come to find out, 2 days after I got thrown in county jail, um, she came in for visitation and told me she was pregnant. So that sucked. So yeah, my son, my youngest son, um, was born while I was away. So that sucks. Um, but she was a great woman. She was a very good woman. We ended up we ended up getting married for convenience purposes, for visitation. She was able to bring me my son every week, which she did. She brought me my son every single week, to see me. And she's a great woman. And as soon as I came home, we got divorced. She had, while I was gone, she fell in love with some other guy, which was I totally respect and understand. No animosity towards her whatsoever. And she deserves the best life possible because she was great. She brought my son to see me every single weekend, which was amazing. And I know it wasn't always easy. It wasn't convenient. There's shitty people there. Um, so yeah, so I guess, I've gone on for like 45 minutes now. I guess I could go into, more detail about the experience there. Um, I'm not going to do, I probably won't do a lot of it right now. Maybe I'll do more this week. Cause that's a lot of time. So I'll tell you guys this. I ended up leaving county jail on December 17th, 2012. Um, they shipped me off to the Holiday Unit in Huntsville, Texas. If you guys don't know, there are 7 prisons in Huntsville. It's where they have the death, where they execute everybody. It's where death penalty is executed, in the state of Texas. And there's an intake unit there called the Holiday Unit, and everybody has to go through there. And so that's where they sent me. And I spent right at 30 days there. Um, and when you go through, it's called sociology. Of course, they have to verify whether you have a education, because everybody who leaves prison, they require that they have at least their GED. Well, I had already had college credits at this point, just from high school, so we were able to send that kind of stuff in. They could pull it up. They found my when they talk about your permanent record, they'll find that shit. My diploma from high school, it was on record. My college credits, they were able to find all this stuff. And it's not like they contacted a school. They were just, it's in the system. It's attached. It's in the system. You guys believe when it talks about a permanent record, that shit's there. It's real. Um, so anyway, they do this sociology, and of course I'm covered in tattoos. And so, I get investigated immediately for being a gang member, which is weird. I'm a white Jewish guy, but apparently every single color or or symbol has a different meaning in jail, in prison, than it does out here. So like I have a Star of David tattooed on my chest, and apparently that's the symbol for a particular gang. And so I got investigated for that. Well, I have blue on me, and that's the color for a particular gang. So I got investigated for that. And I have red on me. And so I got investigated for that. Well, I also have 13s tattooed on me from Friday the 13th events, like from last Friday. Um, Obviously, I got investigated for that because, that's MS 13. So it's like I'm a white Jewish guy, but I got investigated. I literally got investigated for every gang out there possible that even there's no way I could be a member of it. It's impossible. The one thing they did not investigate me for was any of the white gangs, which is funny. They didn't investigate me for any of those. I got investigated for all the black and the Hispanic gangs, black and Mexican gangs. Um, so I spent 30 days there. Like I said, they go through sociology. What that is they classify you. They take all your records from county and where I was a trustee in county. They made me a trustee there and, worked in commissary. So I, got everybody's, stuff you would buy, you want to buy chips, bags of chips and stuff. So they go through the sociology, they check your, they check your IQ, things like that. You get it all back, which is kind of cool. I had 149. So that was awesome. At least I knew I wasn't dumb. I acted dumb. I just, and emotionally was probably a little stupid, but, at least it was nice to know that, mentally I wasn't stupid. But they check your risk categories, all this other stuff, and they classify you. So after 30 days, on January 17th, I got shipped off to a unit in Jasper, Texas called the Goodman unit. And it was a low level, low risk, low custody type facility, inside gates, all that stuff. And they go through this thing called UCC. I forget what it stands for, but it's like unit classification something. And what you do is you go in and there's usually like the warden and a major and usually like a civilian type person who's there. Because all prisons you have your officers and you have civilian people that actually work there for different various things like secretaries and things like that. So as soon as I walk in, the warden looks right at me and he says, so you're my Olympic athlete. What? I said, holy shit. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to get fucked here. Like I'm going to be treated horribly. And I'm like, and I said, well, no, sir, technically I didn't go to the Olympics. And he was like, it doesn't matter. He's like, do you have a problem working for women? I said, absolutely not. Work for my mom. He says, obviously you have no drug or alcohol history. He says, I'm going to make you a trustee and I'm going to put you in the infirmary. So that was cool. I didn't have to go into right off the bat. I didn't have to go into any rough, dormitory. I will say in holiday unit, I was in a pretty rough one. They just that's what they have to do to everybody. And I mean, it was gang central. It was rough, but, the first unit I got put in a trustee dorm, and I worked in the infirmary. And so I worked around all the doctors and nurses. Basically I was a janitor. They called them SSIs. But I was a janitor and I went in there and I'd mop the floors and I'd, make their coffee. Like I'd, prep coffee for the night before. And, if they needed, filing cabinets moved or anything, whatever, I would help out with that. And, I would sit in there and, and it was nice because being around regular people instead of having to be around a lot of inmates all the time, I was around, regular people. So, I ended up from there, it was like, I want to say it was April 8th. I get transferred back to Huntsville. Not knowing what's going on. I just get sent to Huntsville and I'm there for like 10 days. And we're like, what the fuck? Like what, what's going on? So let me back up a little bit. I find out when the judge sentenced me to 10 years, I find out this is why I don't have like a real conviction on anything. I have no real, I do, but I don't. Um, the judge's intention was that he told my attorney was that or the DA told my attorney was that the judge's intention was to give me what's called shock probation. And shock probation essentially is where they send you off to prison for 6 months. You go through all this nonsense. You go through the BS. They shave your head because on intake they shave your head with scalding hot clippers and it burns the fuck out of you. And you get checked for lice and yeah, you got to clean and shower and huge open rooms and yeah, you go through a lot of that stuff and it's kind of crazy. Um, but the intention was to send me there for 6 months, then bring me back and start everything all over again. So while I was there at the first unit, in Jasper, I wrote a letter to my attorney to deny shock probation. I was going to refuse it because I knew at that point that no, nothing I ever did was going to be good enough in that county. As long as that judge was on the bench, that I was going to be. This was going to happen over and over and over again, and I couldn't have my life in the upheaval like this, constantly back and forth and back and forth. And secondly, I had come to terms in reality. You start taking assessment pretty quickly of who you are. I think it's a big. This is what I'm going to explain to you guys is a big reason of why I am the way I am today, and the way I am very open and honest and responsible in observing who I am and the things I do. Because I took an assessment of myself and of my life. And I said, this is not what I want to be, but I need something about me needs to change. And I literally sat down and I wrote a list out and, I'd wrote a list out of all the things I had done wrong. Again, I'm not a drinker, but, this is almost like AA. It's almost identical to AA. And you sit in there and, one sec. Alexa, set the downstairs temperature to 68 degrees. It's getting a little warm in here. So I am, I write a list of all the things I had done wrong in my life. Well, I say wrong in my life. Pretty much since I was like 18 years old. As an adult, I wrote a list down of all the things I had done wrong, and I look at it, or all the things that happened in my life, the bad things that happened in my life, and I said, okay, out of that list, which ones am I responsible for? And I didn't, and it wasn't like a percentage. It was like, okay, I am solely responsible for this. No one else is to blame for this or this or this. Because there's events that would obviously that transpired that someone else contributed to. I couldn't take a self-assess because you can't control what someone else does. You can only control what you do. So I looked at the things that I did, that only I was responsible for. And I wrote down a list of what caused it. And I don't mean, getting into a fight. What I mean is something along the lines of arrogance or pride, ego, things like that. Those are the causes. Like I said, because someone can say something to you and you don't have to respond, or if you do respond, how you respond is your decision. Like you don't have to yell, but if you do, that's your decision. It's your choice to yell. You don't have to, but if you choose to, that's your decision. So you take that kind of responsibility. How does that happen? And so I wrote down this list, and all of it came back. All of it was coming back to the same exact thing. It was ego and humility. And I had never actually had to face responsibility for any of my own actions. Either I was young and I was a good student, so it got me out of trouble, or I was an amazing athlete and it got me out of trouble, or as I got older, my parents bought me out of trouble. And then, of course, as I got older myself, and I was able to buy myself out of trouble. So I was never actually responsible for, taking responsibility for my own actions. And so I knew at this point I had to change that because I didn't want to live this life. This is not what I want. I mean, I'd spent at this point I'd spent between county and here, I'd spent like 4 months observing these people, and there's a lot of people there that had gone and come back. They went home and then came back committing additional crime, and because they didn't change who they were, the patterns that they were, living within. And so I knew, and I was smart enough to realize I needed to change. And I wasn't going to change by getting out scot free and getting to go home and getting away with everything. So I wrote a letter and I refused shock probation. I said that I will serve my time, take my chances with the state of Texas, and I will earn my way home. So April 8th, I get transferred to Huntsville, and like I said, I was there for like 10 days, have no fucking idea what's going on. But I will tell you, it's the craziest thing. I started getting treated. For a lot of you guys, I tell everybody this. If you've ever seen the Shawshank Redemption, if you've seen the movie Shawshank Redemption, my story is very similar to Andy Dufresne's. The main character, the Tim Robbins character, my story is very similar. I should have never been there. What I did not do what I was being accused of. I did do something that got me there, but not not the other stuff. That just, other than me being an asshole. And that was very similar because they believed he was just a cold, remorseless kind of individual. So they believed he had to be guilty of it. Well, that's how I was behaving. I was arrogant. I was just cold and remorseless. I'm like, why the fuck am I even here? I didn't do what you guys are saying. I'm not. So anyway, it was really weird. I started getting treated like him. When they transferred me to Huntsville, they put me up in a corner. And this place was like an old unit. And so where I was in Jasper, it's like ground level with like 30 people dorms. You're just parked, there's bunk beds in there, and you're in there in a big room, TVs. When they put me in Huntsville, it was cells, and it was like 3 tiers, and they had me in a corner, like suite all to myself. And this was kind of the start of it. And it was kind of weird. I didn't realize what was going on. Well, little background, obviously with my personal background and my education level and my IQ, all this stuff started catching up to me. And so somebody high up in the system did some digging in my file, and they didn't believe I deserved to be there. So, but there was nothing they could do to get me out. Keep in mind that, like I said, I know what I did, and mostly what I did was being an asshole, but that didn't warrant me going to prison for it. And this individual realized that. In the state of Texas, there's like 150 plus thousand people in the prison, in the corrections system. I was one of 10 people that had a criminal mischief charge. I mean, it's a nonsensical charge that there's nothing else that they can't really find you did anything wrong, but they believe you did. And it's just the way state of Texas is. So there was 10 people in the entire system out of 150,000. There was 10 people in the system. So obviously I caught the eye of somebody. And so I started receiving a lot of special treatment from that point forward. I was housed alone, things like that. And like I said, after about 11 days, I was sent to a facility much closer to my house, place called O.L. Luther Unit. And when I got there, it's a big facility, huge. It's on a 9,000 acre farm, basically, because people there farm everything. The inmates farm everything. They didn't send me inside the building. They told me to grab my shit and walk down the road. What? Yeah, you're going to the trustee camp down the road. So that's where I spent the remaining amount of my time, was there. And when I was there, it was, I mean, it sucked. You know, you're away from your friends, you're away from your most importantly, away from your family. I was away from my kids. Um, but at least it wasn't a violent place, so to speak. I mean, there was plenty of violence and I experienced plenty of that, but um, it wasn't like having literally to fight for your life every moment of the day, like it could have been at some points inside the building. So, well, they sent me to the trustee camp, and it's hard to explain, but they're just big metal buildings, huge open dorms with bunks, and they're not double bunks; they're single beds. So everywhere I'd been has been bunk beds. These are just single beds with like 3 or 4 foot tall walls around them. Called them cubicles. And each dorm, there was 2 dorms, and each dorm could house up to 105 people, but they only had like 50 people in each one, so they were spaced out. Um, so you got a lot of room, and you could shower when you wanted to. That was the big thing there, was showering, things like that. Um, Obviously, hygiene was big. Um, but there were these things called day rooms, and there was 3 day rooms, and each day room had a TV in it. And in one of them, there was a barber shop and a ping pong table and a weight machine and tables for playing chess, checkers, and dominoes. Um, go outside, there is a full basketball court. Um, there was a handball wall. Um, there was a running track. There was a soccer field. There was a volleyball court. There was a baseball field, and there was no fences. Literally, where I was, it was cattle on the other side, and it was literally right up the road from my house. The railroad tracks. There was railroad tracks that ran back there. Railroad tracks actually ran down to where my, close to my home. Ran straight down to where I grew up at. And from there, like I said, it's I spent the rest of my time there. And there's obviously a lot of stories and a lot of people, and eventually I do plan on having some of the people that I met there come on my show. And that's a big part of why I decided to do this. Other than the fact that today is the 16th, it's the 5 years since I've been home. Um, there's going to be people that I'm going to bring on. There's going to be people that I'm going to talk to that know my story. That things are going to be said, and I believe in context, and I believe in the details, and it would bother me to not have had this conversation with you all and then have things be said and it not me like I have to hold back. I think this can give me the ability to be honest with you guys, and with a lot of different things, and not have to skirt around topics, things with my friends and stuff like that. So, um, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end it here, but I do want to tell one more story about all this. Other than the fact that my son's mom came and visited me, and she's a wonderful woman, and I appreciate her, and I'm grateful for her. She's been remarried now for 5 years, and has another kid with this gentleman, and he's a great guy, and he's a great stepfather to my son, and I can't complain. I'm grateful for all of that. No anger with her. I mean, she was there for me when I needed her and allowed me to see my son every single weekend. So God bless her. I love her. Um, what I will say is that I think you guys know that there's not supposed to be any contact between inmates and guards. And my eventual job, what I was doing there is it's kind of similar to what I do now, as I do paperwork. They knew that I shouldn't be there, but I had to be there, and that I had this particular background. So they gave me a clerical job, and basically what I worked for the trustee camp lieutenant and the warden of the unit, and I did paperwork. Everything there, it's bureaucracy, so everything's run by papers, and you got to check this, and you got to mark this, and you got to date this, and you got to do all this other stuff. And I was the only one who, at some point, the person before me who was doing it, he went home. I'm actually friends with him to this day. He'll come on here at some point. He was doing a lot of this stuff, and So he went home, and so this is what I was doing. So it got me in a position to where I was really not close, but at least cordial with a lot of the officers and things like that. And we would have like human conversations, not it wasn't like, here to here kind of conversation. It was like we were able to have like normal conversations about regular life and things like that. Because I was fortunate. I actually had lived a life prior to, had a good family, and lived a life, and I knew responsibility. And anyway, so what they do is, I don't go home from that unit. They have to pick you up and they have to send you back to Huntsville, and you go home from a unit called the Walls unit. The Walls unit's where they do the executions. So they pick you up from this unit and they send you back to the Walls unit where they release you and you walk out and your family's there. Well, what they typically do is the night before. See, I made I was granted parole in June of 2016, but they made me wait 60 days. Even though I was given granted immediate release, they held me for 60 days for a couple different reasons. Nothing I had done. It was just stupid bureaucratic paperwork stuff. But it's fine. I knew I was going home. Just didn't know when. So what ended up happening was the 14th of August came around, and what they do is at nighttime, we have to go to we're supposed to be in our racks, no more watching TV, stuff like that, at like 10 o'clock at night. So we had to go in our bunks, lay down, and what they do is they come in, and the guards come in, they do a count, which is done like every couple of hours, and then they come in, they bring in you these pieces of paper. Like if you have, you're supposed to go to the infirmary the next day, or there's a job change, or whatever. But then they come in and they tell people that you're on chain, like you're leaving, either you're gonna be transferred to another unit or you're going home. Well, I knew I was going home. So they didn't come say anything to me. And this was night after night after night. And the stress of it was just eating me up. Like, I know I'm going home, but when the fuck am I going home? So finally, at about 11:30 at night, I'm laying in my rack and I'm reading. The guard comes over and he kicks my rack and he's like, Hey, Husk. This is why I hate to this day, just hate being called by my last name only because of all that. He says, "Hey, lieutenant's up here. They want you to go do the paperwork. They want you to do the camp books." And I'm like, okay. So I get dressed and I go up front, and lieutenant's in there with one of the sergeants, and he's like, "Husk, come on in, sit down, take a seat." Again, this is odd interaction. I mean, there was one time where the guy grabbed me, not grabbed me. He was in the dorm and he calls. There's a phone call inside the dorm, and this is a phone you're not supposed to touch. Like, no one else is supposed to touch. He gets a phone call from outside of the camp and calls me over and tells me to take the phone call. And it was a maintenance thing I was supposed to be doing. They needed some paperwork done on some maintenance stuff. So the guy had always been really exceptionally cool with me. And so I go in there and he's like, "Sit down." And again, odd interaction. It's like 11:45 at night. He's not even supposed to be there. He made a special trip up to the trustee camp that night. And he just starts talking to me like normal. We're just sitting there BSing. We're talking about hunting. We're talking about trucks. We're talking about kids, just having a normal conversation. And after about 20 minutes goes by, I say, Hey, Lou, I said, "Do you need me to do the paperwork? Do you want me to do the books tonight?" He's like, "Nah." He's like, "It can wait. Somebody else can do it." He says, you need to go in and you need to go pack your stuff." I said, "What?" He says, "Yeah, you're going home." He says, "You're leaving in the morning." And this is 4 years now. And he says, "Yeah, you're going home." He says, "You just need to go in and pack your stuff, get some sleep." And he stands up and he reaches his hand out and he shakes my hand. He shook my hand. And he looked at me and he says, "If there were more men like you in this world," he says, "a place like this wouldn't need to exist." And he shook my hand. and which was like huge. Like it's you don't touch, there's no physical contact. And the sergeant who was standing there, he reaches out his hand and he shakes my hand. Gave me a hug. He was a Muslim man, and he gave me a big hug. He knew I was Jewish, and so him and I had religious conversations in the past, and so he gave me a hug. And then, so of course I'm bawling at this point because I'm going home, So I go in and I start packing all my stuff and I'm getting ready. And the next morning, you have to line up. They call us out. We have to line up, and the sergeant who came on shift that morning, he calls me up to the front of the line. And he says, "Husk, you're going home, huh?" He says, "Yes, sir." He reaches his hand out and he shakes my hand in front of all the other inmates. And everybody just like, "What the fuck?" Like it was bad. Like it was a huge, I had, like you could hear it coming out of these guys. They're like, "What the hell is that?" Guy shaking my hand. So then we have to walk about a quarter mile up the road to the main building to go where the bus will come. And as we get there, there's a guard up in the tower with his rifle. And he walks out and he says, "Husk," he says, "I heard you're going home." I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "Good, man. Go home and take care of that baby." Because everybody knew my son and my baby and his mom. They, like I said, they came up here every weekend and said, "Go home and take care of that baby." And then there's an officer inside of the building right there. And he's like, "Oh, man," he's like, "Congratulations, you're going home, buddy." He said, "That's awesome." And again, this is like there's other people around me. There's probably 30 other inmates around me, and they're all like freaking out, like, "What the fuck is this?" Like, this is the fifth person now that has said something to you. Like, then the bus comes in like 2 hours, but I'm laying on the ground and I'm in there sleeping on the concrete. And I hear this woman's voice coming through the gate. And she was an officer, but she ran like a yard crew. And she comes in there where she's not supposed to be because it's males in this room. And you're not supposed to be in there at all with these males. And she just screams, "Husk, come here." Wakes me up. She puts her hand through the fence and she shakes my hand. And she says, "Congratulations, go home and take care of that baby." Now, keep in mind, I've been in this room with other people going home, and none of this stuff had ever happened before. I'd never seen something like this happen. So this was like fucking crazy to me. So that's number 6. So finally the bus gets there. And they have to shackle you. Well, not really shackle you. Don't put anything on your ankles, but they handcuff you to another inmate. And you got your bag full of shit, whatever. And I think someone was on my left side, so my left hand was handcuffed. And I walk up to the gate, and again, you got guards that came on the bus that come with the bus. I don't know any of them. I know nothing about them. I've never seen them before. And there's a sergeant coming from the building. He's bringing out a violent inmate who is shackled. He's having to do the little shuffle. Bringing him from the building. They're transferring him off to a violent unit. We're going to lock him. They're going to lock him in a cell. And he gets up to the gate and he sees me and he's "Husk." He says, "Man, I heard you were going home. I heard it." He says, "I heard it inside." He says, "I heard Lieutenant came to see you last night." He said, "Man," he says, "Congratulations." He says, "Man, I'm really proud of you." He says, "I just wish there was a lot more guys like you." In front of these other guards. These are drivers. They don't come to these units. And the sergeant put his hand out. And that's number 7. The sergeant puts his hand out and he shakes my hand in front of these other people, again, in front of these other inmates who aren't even, that I don't even know. Like the trustee camp people I know, but the people from inside the building, I don't know. And it was bad. The guard, the bus drivers, they literally stopped me before I get on the bus. They said, "Who the fuck are you?" They said, "We've never, ever, 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 ever seen a guard shake an inmate's hand. Why the fuck?" I said, "Who?" They said, "Who the fuck are you?" And I said, "Man, I'm just a normal guy." I said, "I just a normal guy that I'm going home. I've been here for years, man. It's time for me to go home." They're like, "No, fuck that." I'm like, "Man, I'm just a good guy. I didn't get in trouble. I was a good guy." So, when they sent me to the Walls unit. That was on the 14th. No, sorry. The night I was told. So we got shipped off. That was the night we got told was the 14th. I got shipped off on the 15th, and they tried pulling a trick on me at the Walls unit, and they had me in a dorm, not in a dorm. They had me in a cell, and they didn't come and tell me until late. They'd already come and told everybody else who was going to be leaving, actually walking out the doors the next morning. They didn't come and tell me. They waited because somehow my name had transferred along. And so they didn't tell me along with everybody else. They came and told me like 45 minutes later. And the next morning I got to walk out. So August 16th, 2016, I came home, and I haven't looked back. I will say that a lot of that, I hope, maybe, and of course, there's more in my life that I did since then, that was very positive and very productive, but has made me very appreciative and grateful. Um, when I bought this house a year ago, um, I could not express how important was that I was able to buy this house a year ago after being through everything I just told you. I mean, my life was destroyed, but I refused to give up. I refused to quit. I'm not a fucking quitter. I think a lot of you guys can see that from who I am today, but I wasn't a fucking quitter, and I didn't give up, and I never let anything keep me down, but I worked, and I became humble, and I became appreciative, and I started showing gratitude. And so buying this house a year ago was a huge fucking thing. I mean, me buying my car by myself, like I own other vehicles, but I paid for them in cash. And they're, we bought them through the company and stuff. So my car that I bought for myself, solely for myself, that was a huge thing with my credit and being, everything was destroyed. I had no bad credit. I just didn't have credit because of everything I just had been through. And, so when I talk about appreciation and I talk about gratitude, I really fucking mean it. I've had everything taken away from me. I've had everything I loved and cared about completely taken away from me. And I was thrown into a situation where there's a lot of bad people that they didn't care. They just don't care. They're actually happier there. They're happier in that life. And I wasn't. And I never want to go back. And so I've earned my stay, my freedom every single day. I work hard. I show love, appreciation, respect. It's different. Luckily, I retain all my civil rights, right to vote. I retain everything. So, been very grateful for all of that. So yeah, that's it. Maybe one day I'll tell more stories about little things happen here and there, but that's my story, and I appreciate you guys listening. It's a lot. It's a lot, I felt I needed to tell it, because you guys see me online, you see me on social media, and everybody makes an assumption. Oh, I got this and I've got that, and I bought this and I bought that, and I have you don't know the backstory and how hard I work for it and the things what it means to me. Going to the gym is not just about me going to the gym and wanting to feel good and lift weights and take a picture of myself. It's the fact that I was literally told when the fuck I could go to the gym. When there was a jump rope, and if it broke, you weren't getting to get another one for 2 weeks. Now, if I want something, I just drive down to the fucking store and I buy it. You guys don't understand the gratitude I have and the appreciation I have. It's not about me being on social media and all this other stuff. It's not having this podcast. It's literally not about just, hey, let me have this podcast so I can be on TV and screen and talk to people and be cool and make people think that I'm awesome. It's not what it's about at all. For me, it's about trying to give back and show some appreciation. And I think that this is going to give me an opportunity to express that in a more honest, even, fair way. I will say that since I've come home, I've spent a lot of time with a lot of people that were there, kind of mentoring them, talking to them, working back and forth with them about not going back, things that they can do, how they can work on their life, and how they can be better and more productive. Unfortunately, some people have gone back, and it sucks. Um, Sometimes they're just in really bad situations. Like I said, some people, it's better for them inside than it is outside. I will acknowledge that. So when you guys hear me rant about something or have a statement about something, it doesn't come without understanding of what the other side is. Believe me, I understand. For some people, their life is better being there. They have structure, they have food, they have safety, they have shelter. It's better for them there than living on the streets. And I'm not saying that stealing to survive is right, but you understand it. At least you have a perspective of it and you understand it. Um, so there's a lot there. Um, so I just think it'll be better. I can have a more I'll be able to have a more honest conversation with a lot of you guys, and I think that'll make this show and the conversations that are on it that much better. So I want to thank everybody. I've been going on now for about an hour and a half. I'm not sure how many people watched or if there's ever anybody watching at all, but I do appreciate it. I do thank you guys for everything. When I say that after all these, I do mean it. I thank you. People that reach out and just say, hey, I thinking about you. Hope you're doing well. I appreciate you. That's fucking amazing. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing, because when you're there, you don't have that. You don't have that instant communication where someone can communicate with you. There's a phone. You can go make a phone call between certain hours, and it costs about $5 every time you make a fucking phone call. Fortunately, my family was generous with me and they took care of me, made sure I had nothing I wanted for nothing while I was there. And they made sure that I was able to make phone calls every single day. And I love them for it, especially my father. I mean, don't get me wrong, I call my parents every single day. I talk to either my mother or my father every single day. I talk to my son's mother every single day. And, but my father was, it's hard to explain how supportive he was. He's the one who picked me up. He picked me up the day I got out. He was there. I was grateful for that. That was a moment I got to spend with my dad because I lost 4 years with him. And that's why his passing was super hard, because I had, by my own doing, I'd lost 4 years of his life. 4 years I didn't get to spend with him. So, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Appreciate everything. I thank you, everybody. And hopefully I'll talk to you guys soon.